Hello to those who have joined us early. We'll wait just about a minute into the hour. We'll start with our presentation. So thank you for joining. We do like to start on time, but we usually give 1 minute of leeway for folks that are trying to connect. Okay, folks, so let's get started. We're very mindful of everyone's time. First and foremost, thank you all for joining us today. We're going to talk a bit about business brokerage with First Choice Business Brokers. We're quite excited to share some information showing why now is probably the most opportune moment to join our industry, and in particular, why First Choice stands out within that industry, and it's a great opportunity. Over the next 45 minutes, what we're going to do that's unique in this environment is to hear directly from a few of our owners. They will share their insights, even some of the challenges they're faced with. They'll share some success stories. They'll definitely provide you with an authentic glimpse into the life of a business broker within our organization, within our network. Before we start with directing questions at some of the owners, I want to share just a few facts that seem to interest most people that come here. There are really just about 30 million small businesses in the US. And remarkably, there are only about 4,000 full-time business brokers. It's a very small number relative to the opportunity. Based on recent surveys conducted by the Small Business Administration, at any given time, about 20% of those 20 million businesses are either for sale or the owners are considering selling. That's about 6 million business owners hoping to move on from an existing business they're involved with, and perhaps even moving on to a next opportunity. This gives us an opportunity not only to sell existing businesses, but perhaps provide a buying service to those same owners who we are engaged with. The small business owner really is an underserved market here. This industry is not new, and we've been in business for 30 years. This is our 30th year, but it still seems to be virtually untapped. Most people, including business owners, have never even heard of a business broker. We have been systematically changing that over the years, and we continue to do that. Let me introduce you to the folks who are going to be joining us today. These are some of the owners that we have in our system. We have Dr. Leilani Felix Acosta. We have Dr. Fernando Acosta. We have Mike Faust. Now, Dr. Leilani and Fernando are operating in El Paso and in Phoenix, Arizona. Mike Faust is an owner in Van Nuys, California. He's also been an agent for what I think is about 2 decades in the Las Vegas office, perhaps approaching 2 decades. We'll let him share that story when he comes on. Mike Lee is an owner in the state of Utah, the state of Idaho, and Montana. Eric Johnson is in Silicon Valley, and he owns 9 territories there, the bulk of that Silicon Valley area. I am also here. I am Randall Pevin. I work in franchise operations. We have Grant Gooley with us, and he works in marketing across our entire network and for the corporate office. Okay. So we're going to jump to the questions. I'm going to direct these questions at some of the owners. You'll see the questions on the screen. I'm going to direct this first one to, let me start with Mike Lee. Mike, what's your background and what initially sparked your interest in becoming a business broker in general?
You bet, Randall. Yeah, no, it's interesting because I always thought of myself as an entrepreneur at heart, within the entrepreneurial program back in the day when I was in college. But I spent most of my career in sales. I was in high tech, sales leadership, and after having a lot of ups and downs and a lot of successes, I actually found myself part of a big tech layoff last year. And I just told myself, it's like, I know I could go get another chief revenue officer job, head of sales, what have you, but I just don't want to do that again. And, I went for a little bit of reading Buy Then Build, got into the buyer side, tried to find brokers that would help me. Nobody gave, they didn't want to help me, but I found a little welding and steel fabrication company, got SBA approved, ran through the whole process as a buyer. And just before we closed the transaction, the seller and we actually had a meeting without the broker because he wasn't helpful at all to either one of us. And we decided not to proceed. But the really crazy part was he turned to me and he said, "Hey, would you please help us sell this? Like, it's not when, but we will at some point, and you'd be so much better to make it happen." And that was a light bulb moment that got me thinking. And after doing a whole bunch of research, I looked at starting my own. I looked at the other guys in the thing, and I just loved First Choice. To me, it was like family that had collaborative across all the other owners. With just it's a great team. So I'm super happy to be here.
Thank you, Mike. I'm going to ask the same question to Eric Johnson and then Gil Tatarski. Gil, I beg your pardon, I didn't introduce you during the slide where we saw you. Gil is here. We're going to be hearing from him in a moment. But Eric, would you share your unique story, because you've got a background quite different from Mike Lee's?
Yeah, so I started out the same way, right? I was in sales and did that for a long time, but after about 20 years of that, I decided that I really wanted to be in control of my own destiny. And that was 25 years ago. And I started initially by investing in companies as an angel investor. I've owned 54 companies over the last 25 years. And I worked in private equity and as a venture capitalist as well, buying businesses and rolling them up and selling them and growing them, and just everything around the business. But what I found was I didn't really care for operating the business. I enjoyed the transaction, putting the deal together and structuring it and making that all happen. That was what I really enjoyed doing, and then scaling that business. So more on the strategic side. So when I got the opportunity a few years back, I worked for another business broker for a while, just to kind of get to understand the industry. And then I looked at just about every franchise out there. I knew I didn't want to go it alone, so I looked at just about every franchise out there, and First Choice stood out to me as a very valuable resource in that they've got 30 years of history here in the United States, and they've got a tremendous training program that is virtually guaranteeing success for my agents. Every one of my agents that has come on board. Now, I just bought this franchise in December, and then in March, I added 8 more territories because of the success that we're already having by utilizing this system. My agents, once they get done with training, every one of them has secured a listing within that first week. So, they're being successful, and by virtue of that, I'm being successful. And I'm going to grow this territory. I got some big plans.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Thank you very much, Eric. Gil, would you give us your perspective from New York there? Thank you.
Sure thing, Randall. So my background is a little was over several different industries. Actually, I started out at PricewaterhouseCoopers, which is PwC, and I was in their entertainment group. I worked on Sony and Viacom, and some of the great projects was Sony Music. So I got to work on Michael Jackson's business. And then in Viacom, I got to work on the Viacom Paramount merger. So that really piqued my interest in investment banking. So actually, then the internet age came, and I actually co-founded a internet recruiting company. And the guy that I co-founded it with, we raised a bunch of money, we hired a bunch of people, and then he was embezzling from the company. So that ended up going bust. And so I actually met this golf professional, and he had all these ideas for training aids, and I was able to help him develop those, and we marketed them on the Golf Channel and ESPN and all that. So he had all these ideas, and I figured, let me try to transition that to other inventors. So I got involved with negotiating licensing deals for inventors and infomercial companies. But what I found was when you got the deal done, the product would need to roll out, and less products were rolling out at that point. So I actually got back into accounting. I was working at Jackson Hewitt, managing 3 of their offices. And then I met Melissa, and most of you know Melissa, and I was looking to get into a franchise. So she showed me all these different franchises, and then First Choice came about. And actually, I loved it. I thought it was a perfect combination of all my experiences to do that. And the training was excellent. And when I met Jeff and Linda, I fell in love with it, and that's when I joined.
Appreciate that, Gil. So for those who don't know, Jeff and Linda Nyman are the co-founders of First Choice Business Brokers, and they've been operating for now. This is our 30th year. Thanks again, Gil. I'm gonna jump to the next question and put that up. Why did you choose First Choice over other opportunities? So I'll direct that to Dr. Leilani and Dr. Fernando. You can answer separately if you prefer. And then Mike Faust, I'll ask you to chime in as well. Appreciate that. Dr. Leilani or Dr. Fernando, would you like to start?
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to unmute. So for us, we were going to school, we were doing our doctorates, and we actually come from the corporate world. And as we were preparing for the next step in our career, it was important for us to start in a place where we were reducing our risk, right, versus a startup. And so we started researching different opportunities. And when we learned about First Choice, apologies, one second.
They are doing business. That's what you hear in the background.
That was a phone in the background. One of the things that stood out for us was that we inquired about First Choice, and we actually heard that Jeff and Linda, the founders, were coming to Phoenix, Arizona for an in-person, similar to like a workshop, a webinar. And they took the time to meet with us after that workshop. They actually invited us to lunch, and they just sat with us. And for us, that was so important. And it really differentiated it from the other opportunities that we had been looking at, because they really took the time to answer the questions, right, that we had. And for us, that was valuable, that the founders of this company were giving us that time. So that was the main thing. And in addition, we really liked that we had all the systems, the technology, the contracts that were going to be available for us, and that we felt that we were going to be part of something bigger versus just a local presence. It was like a national presence, right? It's a brand that comes within the business, and that's one of the main reasons why we decided to go with First Choice.
Appreciate that. Fernando, I know you probably have a similar experience to Leilani. Would you like to elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, no, she did a great job explaining, our background and why we chose First Choice. But, just to add to that, I think it's the family, right? So at the end of the day, it's the family atmosphere. There's a lot of mentorship here. So I think in this area, there's so many moving parts when buying and selling a business that not one person knows all the levers to pull. So relying on each other, different offices, Jeff and Linda, everybody that's involved within First Choice has been super helpful to us so that we can be successful at either helping clients buy a business, sell a business, or even help them continue growing that business so that we can sell it for more in the future. So I think that family culture that they've created is invaluable here.
Appreciate that. And Mr. Faust, I mentioned that you are the owner in Van Nuys, California, but you've been around as an agent for a number of years. Maybe you can share that story and perhaps why you made the transition from agent to an owner.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, it's been about 20 years. I've been working out of the Las Vegas office here. And at that point, there weren't a lot of other choices in business brokerage locally. And I wasn't, at the time, particularly looking to get into business brokerage. I had a much more blue-collar beginning to my career than some of our other esteemed colleagues on the panel here. But I had a lot of different jobs before I joined the Navy. Coming up, I worked in restaurants and factories and auto repair, my dad's shop and stuff, and joined the Navy and got out, and then I went to school and got my bachelor's. But one of the things that I kind of experienced coming up was I couldn't really make up my mind whether I wanted to work for a company and just get a salary, but I always enjoyed sales work. I always enjoyed being outside, working with people. And so I would bounce back and forth. And eventually I wound up in accounting and finance and accounting. I worked as an analyst for CBS television for about 10 years. And I came to Las Vegas, and I had just kind of gotten fed up with the corporate world and wanted to decided to finally start my own business. And I was looking for a business to buy. And I saw Jeff's ad, why not sell businesses for a living? And I thought, well, I like sales work and I can read a balance sheet. So the rest is kind of history. I wound up working for Jeff and Linda for about 20 years now. And when I first started, like I said, seeing his ad, I did a little research and looked around. There were only one or two other companies in town that were active on any level. And I got along so well with Jeff and Linda and felt so comfortable that I really didn't look around a lot. I went to work for them. And as the company grew and started the franchising, Linda and Jeff are both amazing. And they've done an unbelievable job in building this from one small office in Las Vegas to 80 offices around the country. This transition has been unbelievable to watch. And I'm getting along in years at this point, and I kept telling my wife, I'm working, I'm busy, and you're making good money and everything, but I was like, if this is, this semi-retirement thing isn't all it's cracked up to be, I'm working way too much, but at the same time, I began to notice that a lot of the younger agents in the office were branching out and buying one or two franchises on the side of what they were doing as an agent and starting to run these offices. And I just asked myself, what would I be doing if I was 48 instead of 68? I'd be doing what they're doing, right? And so so I did it. I went out a couple of years ago and bought the franchise there in Van Nuys, California. I'd lived in California for some time, and my wife and I now live in Las Vegas, and I run a virtual office out of the Van Nuys office there in North Hollywood, California. And so it's working out well, and I'm very, very happy. I think I found the right place to be, even with my lack of direction early in my life. I found that when I would walk into a restaurant and the guy says, you know anything about restaurants? I tell him, are you kidding? I used to work here, and the same thing with auto repair shops, the same thing with factories. So everything kind of came together, and I really feel like I found a great home. It's a great lifestyle, and people from all different kinds of backgrounds can walk into this system that Jeff and Linda have created, and you can be successful in business brokerage.
Appreciate
I think
that.
that's it.
Awesome, Mike. Sincerely appreciate that. And I'm sure everyone here appreciates the perspective of someone who's been around for 2 decades, right? Because that's an important distinction. And for those here, Mike Faust is not alone in that. We have many folks that have been around for 20, and I think we have a few that have been around for closer to 30, right? So that's
more.
Yeah, exactly. That's really testimony to Jeff and Linda Nyman, who have been building this from one brick back in the day. So again, thanks a lot, Mike. I'm going to move on to another slide. This will give me an opportunity to share a bit of information before I ask the question, because training is really a critical part of our operation. And perhaps surprisingly, we have First Choice University, but perhaps surprisingly, Jeff and Linda Nyman are still the primary instructors for the vast majority of this curriculum. So that in and of itself tells you a lot about the founders of the business. Every agent, every owner goes through this First Choice University, and then that First Choice University extends to online courses that are always available to agents and owners alike. So to that end, perhaps we can talk a little bit about the owner's experience with training. And I'm going to ask some of the newer folks because they've recently come out of training. I'm going to go to Eric Johnson again and Mike Lee again. So Eric, perhaps do you want to start?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. The training here is phenomenal. It's very complete. And my agents that have gone through it, as I mentioned previously, they're coming out, they're on fire. They want to get out there and they've got all the tools at that point, or at least a lot of the tools, to where they can get through the listing appointments and the MPAs, and they're ready to do the purchase agreements and all that. They have that confidence level coming out of that training, and that's really key, right? Because somebody coming into this from another industry, or maybe they've never done sales before, but they're just good with people. They can get in here and learn all of the techniques that they're going to need to be successful. We couple that in our territory, and I think within most of the facility, or most of the branches, with a mentorship program. And we match them up there, and between those two things, these guys are getting off to a very successful start. I've got one agent that graduated from FCU in at the end of January, and ever since then he's been adding at least one listing a week. So he's doing very well, and he's got some offers that are in process, and various states of sale. And if he keeps doing what he's doing, he's going to make a significant amount of money this year. And the other agents are maybe not quite that successful, but they're still going to make more than what they were doing previously. So it's really good. The training helps out tremendously. And again, it's there whenever you need a refresher as well. And that's really key, because I've gone back to it a few times, and I know my agents are constantly going back and reviewing the videos and the training. So it's good. It works really well.
Thanks, Eric. Mike, would you like to add your experience recently?
Yeah, no, I definitely will. It echo everything that Eric had said. My wife is actually my partner in crime here with our little Mountain West empire, but she's 30 years in hospitality sales. I mean, she knows how to get people to go to a city like San Diego and throw up a big party. Zero background in finance or anything like that. And, as I was going through the whole process with Melissa, she was listening in, and one day she said, "God, I want to do that too. Like, that sounds like fun." I'm like, first off, you're my wife. And second off, this is business. Like, this is a whole different world for you. And I'll tell you, the training was so phenomenal. I mean, I think the self-paced training is a whole bunch of videos and answer question Q&A and tests and stuff like that, and homework. And I'll be damned, and not only she did the whole thing, but we have fun dinner conversations now. Fun for me, right? Talking about business, how do we structure this deal, architect it in a way that both sides win, and fun stuff like that. So yeah, I can't say enough about how great the actual FCU, or First Choice University, is to help even people that are new to finance and business. But like Mike Faust, love you, man. One of many that is another reason why I chose First Choice. I mean, people actually care about, like, owners care about other owners, right? Like Eric and I, we have like a standing biweekly call. We're just comparing notes, and we got Slack channels and different things. We're all communicating. And so the training, it starts with FCU, it continues, and we have it's a nationwide network of people that you can brainstorm with on different kinds of, like, I've never done a long haul trucking before. How does this darn thing work? And turns out that's how Mike and I got kind of connected. But it's pretty neat. And I just wanted to say also, like, to Eric's point on sort of success, like, we always have agents, like, I like when I talk to people that are thinking about joining First Choice, that maybe they're thinking about joining our team, and they just want to know, like, how long until I make my first dollar? It seems like a really long sales cycle, and the answer is yes, it is. But I haven't. It's funny. My wife and I, we actually were in that January training, and we had another agent who went through the training with us. And that other agent, he's now signed a $4 million business, a $6 million plumbing company, a bunch of these like 2 to 400,000. I think he signed 5 since January. And I just signed a $7.5 million trucking company yesterday and have a really healthy pipeline. So we haven't been doing it that long, but I think it's sort of in the same sort of spirit of what Jeff and Linda started once upon a time. It's caring about the buyer, actually listening to the seller and trying to understand what's the narrative, what is their story. And then another big thing that I heard when I was like interviewing other business brokers in the First Choice Network, it's like, don't ever take a listing for whatever the seller wants. Like, push back and actually get a real number. And if you have priced it right based on a real world valuation, it'll move quickly. So I can't say that I have a whole bunch of success stories to like tons of wire transfers hitting my bank yet, but I think we're getting some fantastic new listings and it feels really good to help the owners. And on the buy side, it feels, I guess if I would summarize it, we learned a lot in First Choice University. We put it together and put it to use. And now it really feels like we feel good at night when we go to bed. Like we're doing meaningful work, helping buyers and sellers at Matchmaker to bring them together. So anyway, that's what I got, Randall.
Awesome. Appreciate that. I picked up on one thing that you said, how owners are working together. Sometimes when new owners will contact me, hey, I don't quite get this. I'll say, hey, it's an SBA loan. Call Ryan Rock in California. Like, well, he's the owner there. You mean he's going to help me? I'm like, oh, you'll see. Just call him. And these relationships flourish. And it is all day, every day. Owners are communicating amongst each other on subject matters that they are expert in or otherwise. So we do support, and the owners support each other as well. I'm going to move along, and I'm going to ask Dr. Fernando if he would describe a little bit about the ongoing support and sort of the communication that you have with corporate or with the support people. We'd appreciate your perspective on that.
Absolutely. So the ongoing support is second to none. So, one of the biggest things that really benefited us is all the information systems that First Choice has. So they have the technology, they have the processes, and above all, the people that connect both, right? So there is not one situation where we can't pick up the phone and get somebody within a few minutes to support anything that we need. Sometimes we're getting stuck structuring a deal, locking in a listing. There's always somebody available for us to call, ask, brainstorm, throw out ideas, and then come back with a lot more ammunition to be able to accomplish whatever that goal is. Now, the CRM that First Choice has is very high tech. We use a lot of AI as well, a lot of automation. So that has enabled us to better communicate and focus on building relationships with our clients rather than having to deal with the technology too much. That's been taken care of. So all we have to do is follow the bouncing ball and then ask for support whenever something is not working as it should.
Appreciate that. Leilani, do you want to add anything to that, or?
Sure. Yeah, I was just going to add, adding to what everybody else has already said, I think the ongoing support and communication is incredible. The fact that, we have monthly owner calls, so we have monthly webinars. So I think when we start introducing this opportunity to potential agents, when we're bringing them to our team, one of the things that we notice that is a wow factor for them is that one, the First Choice University is, taught by the founders. I think that's incredible to people that they're dedicating that support and that time, right? And that there's this ongoing support, as Fernando mentioned, anytime, even though we've been doing this for almost 5 years, there's different industries, every deal is different. So there's always a new opportunity to learn more, right? And if we have challenges, we have that support directly from Linda, from Jeff, and if they're not available, they have an incredible support system at corporate that we can reach out to. And I think that's incredible, the collaboration, right, with our owner calls, our, being able to share ideas and brainstorm and just continue pushing the company into innovation and new marketing techniques. And I think that's really important. And that's something that we love about First Choice and that our agents are finding really helpful as well. So some of them are newer, they've only been doing it for a few months. And the fact that, if they reach out to us and we don't have the answer and we send them over to corporate, they get that support. I think that's invaluable. It's not like we have to be waiting for days to get a response, right? So that is, I think it's communication and support that it's ongoing, and it's for everyone. It's not just for owners, it's everyone that's part of the First Choice family.
Appreciate that, Leilani. Mr. Faust, I think your perspective on the support as it relates to contracts and agreements, because I do believe that new owners might underestimate the value of the contracting and agreements and the documents that we provide as templates and whatnot, and how that makes your life a little bit more predictable from that side of the support. That would be helpful, I think, to folks.
Yeah, I think that you have to consider that because of the longevity of the organization, because Jeff and Linda have been involved in the industry for so many years, even for a decade before this particular company was started, they were in the industry. And Jeff used to like to tell the story how the listing agreement started out as like 2 pages long. And every time something happened that cost him money, he added another clause. And now that agreement is considerably longer. So it's through experience. These agreements that we these proprietary agreements have been very carefully crafted over decades with professional attorneys who are extremely experienced in the business. And one of the main corporate attorneys, Osley, that Jeff uses, has come along and grown with the company and helped him to develop these agreements. So our agreements have been used to sell law offices and used by judges, and they are proprietary. We're the only ones that have them. They're very solid agreements that can be used for a broad array of different types of businesses. They're excellent agreements, and you hear it again and again. So that absolutely makes your life easier. And they've been very supportive from the beginning. I think that's one of the key elements of the organization is the culture of support and sharing and cooperation that Jeff and Linda have fostered from the very beginning. And I think people see that, and it becomes very clear very quickly. If they come to one meeting or when they come to a convention, or just the fact that if you are an owner and you have someone interested in coming to First Choice Business Brokers, and you get them on the webinar for the introduction to First Choice Business Brokers, it's done by the founders. That introductory meeting, someone just thinking about getting into the business as an agent, much less a franchisee, can get on that webinar and ask questions directly of the founders. It doesn't stop. It's really good.
Appreciate that, Mike. The one thing I'll add is that the listing process itself is something that we handle in-house, which makes us unique in the business brokerage world, and that is a tremendous help to owners, new and more experienced. So I'll add that piece. Just as a reminder to the folks out there, you can send questions in via the chat, and we'll try to get to cover as many as we can. We do have a bit to get through here, but we'll try to cover a few. We always get this next question, so we're gonna cover it ahead of time. We get this question every single time. Tell us about an interesting business you've listed, right? So if we can just keep these super quick, we'll just go around starting with Gil. But again, we're heading off the inevitable question that we're going to get from some of the folks that are online today. Gil, what about an interesting business you've listed?
Okay. Yeah, so an interesting business that I worked on is a natural health food store. It's actually a local one that I go to as a customer. several times a week. And the owners had actually tried to sell their business through another broker for 3 years before I got involved. And that other firm charged them $50,000 to do a valuation. And we offer that without a cost. So we listed it for, I think it was 6 million, and we ended up getting 4.7 million for it. So the owners are real happy. It took us about 6 or 7 months to sell the business because we had a number of interested parties, a couple of offers that didn't work. And then we got this publicly traded company that wanted to buy it, and they ended up being the purchasers. And what was interesting there was they actually were so happy with our work that they hired me to find them additional health food stores. So I was able to connect them with an eight store chain after that. So I got more work out of that one listing. I got several different deals.
Excellent.
Really
Excellent.
good.
Mr. Faust, you've been around long enough to probably run into an interesting deal.
Oh my gosh, I can't even. I hardly know where to start. Probably one of the more interesting listings or attention-getting listings I had was a couple of gold mines. I had one for 20 million and one for 25, and they were actually located in Alaska. But that was something really unique that generated a lot of attention. And boy, you talk about something that'll bring the scam artists out. You really learn how to kind of spot those guys. So that was interesting, but there's just no limit to what you can do. I really enjoyed getting into medical practices. That's been really interesting for me. And First Choice Business Brokers does offer training and through an associated company where you can become a certified practice broker. And that's been an interesting avenue for me recently. And I recently put a nice $1.5 million cardiac clinic in California up for sale, and it generated a lot of interest. And I sold one neurology practice, and another doctor saw my ad and said, "Oh, you sell medical practices?" And he let me list his. So there's just anything that's interesting to you, you're going to find a business that's going to pique your curiosity. And I think that's an interesting part of the business, is that you learn so much about so many different kinds of businesses.
Appreciate that, Mike. Leilani, Fernando, prior to telling us about an interesting listing that you've come across, could you just share with us your average size listing or the average overall of the types of listings that you're seeing, and then just give us a quick story about something that might be unique, and then we're going to move on to something else in the interest of time. Okay.
I would say our average is probably $1 million listings. We do see some under $500,000, but some over a million, some up to 5, 6. We have a $6.1 million one currently that we're negotiating. But the average between 1 and 2, it's probably the sweet spot for us between the Phoenix and the El Paso office.
Excellent. Thank you.
Regarding
you
the
want to add something? Yeah, I'm always
regarding the interest in listing, the first one that comes to mind, I would say it's not the most interesting. It was actually a pet grooming shop, but I would say it was the most impactful. And the reason why is it just gave me a very different perspective, right? So, short story, the seller was looking to sell because her daughter had a car accident, and then she had a lot of medical issues after that, to the point that she was on a waiting list for a kidney transplant. So she just had to get out of the business, ASAP, so she could focus on her daughter and be ready for that call whenever, she got the call for the transplant. So for me, it gave me that perspective of, yes, we find a lot of sellers that are looking to sell for different reasons, but these are real people that you're actually helping, with a very crucial process in their lives. And that just gave me a very different perspective, because then I find an owner who's a completely different stage in his life, or a buyer, a completely different stage in his life. He was coming from the corporate world, super excited, new entrepreneur. He had been a customer for many years. And for him, it was an exciting chapter. Like, I'm starting this entrepreneur journey as a business owner, right? So you just see those different perspectives, different chapters that people are on, but you're helping them, you're matchmaking them, or you're a matchmaker in that process. So you're helping the seller be in a position where she can be available for her daughter's condition. And then you're helping this buyer who's really excited to start a new chapter. So I think for us, or especially for me, yes, this is an incredible, business to make limitless amount of money, right? But there's another aspect, because you can do a lot of things for money, right? But when you really realize how many people you're impacting and how many people you're helping get to that goal, you're closing that gap from where they're currently at to the goal where they want to be. I think that's very fulfilling. And that's been one of the most recent impactful listings that we've had.
Thank you so much. It's a great perspective. I'm going to move along again in the interest of time. We like to stay within our allotted time that we've promised. And, most of the folks who are here to see us today probably are curious about the income opportunity. I'm sure if you've spoken to Melissa, you've learned a little bit about that. We generally we're charging 12 to 15% of the price of a business. You've heard some of the averages and some of the large numbers that some people have shared with us tonight. You can do the math there. Does anyone want to elaborate on how this has affected you financially without sharing precise numbers? The doctors have been around a bit. They probably could share once again, as can Mr. Faust, who's got a little smile on his face already.
No, I was. It's just funny to me because I always comment to my wife, I'm supposed to be basically semi-retired. Here I am at this late stage of my life. I'm making more money than I've ever made in my life, and it's just I'll probably never retire. You just work less. You just do fewer deals. But I get to play a lot of golf. Like I said, it's a great lifestyle, and if you the old saying is some people build their lifestyle around their business. Other people build their business around their lifestyle, and this is something that you can do with First Choice Business Brokers or in business brokerage. If you manage your time well and you're disciplined, you can have a lot of me time and still make a great living.
Appreciate that, Mike. It's worth pointing out, and you can see on the screen, it's not just the fees we charge for the transaction, but we get success fees from bankers who want to work with us and other professionals. So that's worth keeping in mind as you move forward as a business owner, as a First Choice Business Broker owner. I'm going to move along to another question that we get all the time, and that would be, how has it affected your lifestyle? I mean, Mike Lee, you're relatively new, but you're an active guy. I know you work from a couple of different locations and even from time to time from a vehicle, right? Tell us about that. Can you do your job on the road?
Absolutely. That's the old planes, trains, and automobiles. No, it's pretty hilarious, actually. We started out, we were just going to be Salt Lake City. And then, Melissa contacted me saying, hey, we got a situation. Could you take over Southern Idaho? We did. And then I said, who else is doing Idaho? What about Montana? Da, 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 da. Ended up with the 3 states. And it's been perfect because we have the InMotion Starlink on our Sprinter van. And it's literally a full tax deductible now mobile office. And we've got a boat in San Diego. We do business from that. A lot of what we do is through Zoom like this. That's one of the things I didn't know getting into it, is how much time I'm going to have to actually drive across town, sit down with somebody and have that face to face. And yes, it's still really important, but it doesn't have to happen right away. And I think about, so I've been doing this for all of 3 months now, but I probably met with each one of the business owners that we have as an active listing. I've met with each one of them once, maybe twice. And usually I map them out so I can hit them in the middle of a drive through Idaho, Montana kind of spin with some skiing along the way, or, trail running. But yeah, that's what I love about it. It's super flexible. And I actually inherited one agent, and I won't give away too many details, but I will say that just from a lifestyle perspective, what I find is really interesting. I always thought I could do this until I die. And this guy's not very close to death, but he's pushing 80. And he just loves it. He's like, Mike, I'm happy to be on your team and make things happen. This is fun for me. So it's super flexible. And Randall, I want to make one comment on that previous slide. When I saw going through training, 15%, I was thinking to myself, who in their right mind would pay 15% broker fee on a $5 million sale? And now that I'm doing it, I'll be surprised. I think our average when I run the numbers is 13% across all of our deals. The lowest we have is 10. And like the 6 million one I just mentioned that we just closed or just put together last week, a $6 million deal at 15%. And they're happy. Like they're just like, great, I get it. You're going to do all the work for me while I run my business. But yeah, lifestyle's great. I'm a big fan. We actually think of it as our little mission in life, or whatever motto is, live in life, and business brokerage fits right into our lifestyle.
Appreciate that. I knew that you were taking full advantage of the flexibility given your lifestyle in general. Eric, you were just on a trip and you were working, because I was reading emails almost on a daily basis while you were in a cruise. I think somewhere in Alaska. You were working and on a cruise in Alaska at the same time, I understand.
Well, yes and no. I was on a cruise, but it wasn't in Alaska. I was in the Caribbean.
Oh, okay. I heard you're
I'm
in
actually
Alaska.
headed to Alaska tomorrow.
Oh,
So I'll for most of March, I was out of my office, right? And so I was at the convention for the first week, and second week I was on a cruise ship. Third week I was in Florida doing some family stuff, and I just got back right at the end of the month. So most of March I was gone. But I was still able to conduct business, as Mike said, and others have echoed. We can do a lot of this stuff on Zoom, and telephone calls. So if I've got an internet connection and my cell phone, I'm good to go. I've got people on the ground here that can help me move things along if I need to. But a lot of the stuff that we do can be done digitally. So the lifestyle, I was doing what the picture's showing here a couple of weeks ago. I was walking on the beach in Grand Turk, and I was conducting business. And that was my choice. I didn't have to do that, but for me, it's easier to just get it done and not have to think about it than it is to put it off and try and do it later.
appreciate that. I knew you were definitely active. I thought you were Alaska, but the Caribbean, but you still found a way to email periodically, as did your COO. So we knew that you were doing a bit of work and play at the same time, which is super common, right? And I think it's partially due to the levels of support that we provide, right? People know that they can pass something into the corporate entity and things are getting handled, and they don't have to be chasing and running and calling and emailing and texting every 5 minutes. We do get things handled right through the transaction itself. So we're glad that you folks are able to benefit from that. Leilani, Fernando, Gil, will you have a story to tell us in a moment? I know this morning I thought you were at the beach house, but you corrected me that you were at the mountain chalet, and you weren't at your office somewhere toiling away in front of a hot computer screen. Maybe you can tell us a bit about that.
Well, actually, when I got involved, I was really expecting to make somewhere between 200,000 and 300,000 a year, and it took a while to get up and running. And it's not overnight. You're not going to get money overnight. It takes several months to get up and running, get your first deal in place. But then I was able to do a number of multi-million-dollar deals in a row. And what that enabled me to do was several things. Paid off 2 mortgages, paid off our cars. I was able to be generous with people. My mother, I bought her a car. I bought a friend, his van broke down. I was able to buy him a car, and I bought my sister a car all in the same year. So it's been a phenomenal, well beyond my expectations on how well you can do at First Choice, for sure.
Appreciate that. You won't be calling Uber anytime soon then, I guess, Gil, right?
No.
Those cars you've bought for your friends and family. Fernando, Leilani?
So I wanted to share a quick story. So both Leilani and I, we own an RV. Actually, we own multiple RVs. And we did a trip all the way from Phoenix, Arizona, all the way to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, because we went to a conference. And it took us about a month to get there. We stopped at every big city. It's a mobile office, so we're able to work from anywhere. And then once we got done with the conference, we got on a Disney cruise, and we took our little one on a 7-day cruise. while we were working. Just this type of business just creates so much flexibility. You will come in and work whenever you want, but it is very addicting. So you want to work. So it's not like we're trying to back off from it. We're constantly being online because we're so excited to help people. And Leilani, do you want to add anything?
I just wanted to add that, you hear a lot of people say you need to find the balance, right? You hear that very common, find the balance. But I think in this industry, it's a lifestyle. So it's not so much about finding a balance, it's incorporating it into your lifestyle, right? So as Fernando mentioned, a lot of the other owners here on the call is you just incorporate it into your trips. And it doesn't mean that you have to be working on the trip, is that you have the ability and the flexibility if you want to, right? It's a choice that you're making. And for us, that was very important to be able to incorporate it into our lifestyle for our family versus being away from our family. So the fact that it's a family trip and we get to bring the baby with us and the in-laws, they can take care of him while we do business for a few hours. And then we make a fun trip out of, every conference that we go to or things like that. We love that aspect of it.
That's a great story. I can't get the smile off my face because of what Fernando was saying. I know you have the RV, but it was invisible to us that you were on a 1 month, road trip, and then you went on a Disney cruise. So that's testimony to the ability to work in that environment. And your clients certainly aren't going to know. Again, I knew you took it to Vegas, and I didn't know the scope of your wild road trip there. You should have made
that just happened in February. We were in Florida in February, the cruise, and then conference in March in Vegas.
That's wild.
So it was back to back.
The clients probably don't know either. I wanted to ask Mike Lee something real quick before we move on, and tell us about the competition in your market, Mike Lee.
Fun one.
Who are they, and how is that going?
Right. Well, so there's the usual suspects like Sunbelt and Transworld and those guys. Transworld actually does fairly well here in the city, in the Salt Lake City area, but a lot of independents. But I think so. I will put it in the words of I was talking with it was a family office group that they're doing some roll-ups in a couple different industries. Like I don't know, Eric Johnson probably has the same experience as me, but we're finding like the PE and the family office, like bigger money is coming down market into the $3, $4, $5 million deals. But yeah, I'm just doing what I think is appropriate in order to do my own due diligence and provide the information that I know they're going to need to make business, do their own assessments and whatnot. And I asked them the other day, and they said, quite honestly, Mike, like you're the only person that actually seems to work and provides us what we need. Everybody else is lazy, like old people that are end of their career, and they think it would be fun to sell businesses on the side, kind of thing. And it's kind of a combination of that I see, and the other thing which drives the heck out, it bugs me to no tomorrow, where we actually go and we do what we think is right to do a business valuation, only to find out that the proper valuation, let's say, is 500,000, but the owner thinks it's $1 million, and we explain to them how your market price is really in that sort of $500,000 range. You can get to $1 million if you do these 3-4 steps over the next 2-3 months, and we'd be happy to help you when the time is right. And then we find out, 3 weeks later, a month later, that another guy in town, he didn't do a valuation. He just said, "How much do you want? $1 million? No problem." Sign this listing agreement. He locks them up, and he just lets them die on the vine on biz by sell for 3-4 months, and then tells them, "Nobody wants your business. You better drop your price." And they end up back at the 600,000. But it's terrible for the seller. It's a disservice, and it's frustrating. So we're trying to figure out how to change the game a little bit. Not only do what's right, but help people see there's a better way. So yeah, it's interesting and challenging all at the same time. How about that?
Your dividends will come once your reputation, works its way through that local environment that you're working in. Appreciate that, Mike.
Yeah. Well, then one more thing I will say is it's interesting. So we actually focus on the business transaction. We don't do the real estate side. You don't have to in Utah. So you don't have to have a real estate license. And I've found over the last, 2-3 weeks, I've had commercial real estate brokers contacting me, essentially saying that they've worked with business brokers and had bad experiences, and they heard I was actually a good person to work with. So that it's a whole nother angle, which is all of a sudden getting interesting where they're bringing me in on, like, they know how to do real estate, all this business valuation, the complications of discounted cash flows, everything else on a business. They don't want to mess with that. So
Appreciate that. Excellent. Folks, I'm going to move on to the next portion here and really just want to give you an overview of what the country looks like, and then we're going to jump into some marketing conversation. I do want to remind you that you can add questions in the Q&A part. So right now we are up at 102 territories in 33 states. It may be 34 now. You can see the map. We're pretty well covering the United States, but plenty of excellent territories are available. It's really, the growth has come from the training, the marketing systems, the support, what comes out of Jeff and Linda Nyman's operation in the Vegas office. It's really the underpinning of everything that you see there on the map. So to that end, we're going to move into the marketing piece, and Grant Gooley is going to talk a bit. So in this particular part of the presentation, he's going to talk about some of the strategies that we utilize on your behalf and what our agency partners do on your behalf. Grant, are you with us there?
I'm here.
He is.
Thank you, Randall.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Dun, 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 dun. I've had the Rocky theme song stuck in my head this entire call. There's nothing better than a success story. And to hear it all from the folks here that I get to work with on a daily basis. We don't always talk about the wins, right? When I'm having calls with everybody here, it feels like, we're overcoming challenges and we're working together on marketing. And in this business, marketing is an important component. To hear Mike Faust talk about literally selling gold mines, just selling gold mines. What a great business. And I have to say that, I get to work with Fortune 500 companies. I'm a fractional CMO in some of those, and, a partner of First Choice, very integrated. There are days where to Melissa, I'm like, I want to be a business broker. And, it's because this business is truly amazing. It's inspiring entrepreneurs, helping entrepreneurs. And, there's nothing better than that. So there's my testimonial. It's unbiased because I'm not a business broker and I don't work for First Choice as an employee. I'm a partner. So it's very unbiased. I want to just jump in here and talk a little bit about, of course, the marketing, the systems, the frameworks. What's truly been amazing is it's going on a few years now, specifically in business brokerage, building frameworks and systems that are predictable. And in marketing, we always are looking for predictability, just for the fact that when you spend money on marketing, you want to have an ROI that makes sense. If you're not getting an ROI, then there's no reason to do it. And that's how we live in our world of marketing. So you need to create systems and processes. And we've done the testing at First Choice to ensure we have a predictable system. And it's not always perfect. There's things you've got to pivot, you got to make changes. But if you get a system down, you're going to feel pretty good jumping in. So with that said, I want to talk a little bit about the cross-channel approach. When we decided to build this system, we knew that we weren't selling cars and we weren't selling shoes online. This is business brokerage. We need to be the authority in the industry. Big ticket sales is what we call this in a B2B format. We need to be in a place where people trust us and we are the go-to authority in the business. And if we're the go-to business broker, then you're going to win against your competition, you're going to be trusted, and you're going to get deals done. So how do we do that in marketing? It takes a cross-channel approach. And so you see on the screen here, we've got multiple channels that we're looking at. We've got LinkedIn, of course, business network, the largest business network online. We've got your website, which First Choice has invested everything that they possibly can into the best technology that there is out there in the website world. And all franchisees get to benefit from that. SEO, search engine optimization, making sure your website is ranking when somebody types in business broker in your area. That is a critical component, again, being the authority. Paid media, this is talking about Google ads and meta ads. And when we say meta ads, we're talking about Facebook and Instagram. getting in front of people in the places where their eyeballs already are. Somebody might say, well, are businesses really on Facebook and Instagram? Absolutely. They're there, they're scrolling just like the rest of us. And we're in front of them saying, we can help you exit, sell, retire. And then into social media, just creating a presence. We're constantly working together on how we can get out there in front of people in an organic, authentic way. It can't just be sales, sales, sales. It has to be education. We're selling from an educational standpoint. And then there is webinars where we're getting out there in front of people, again, with an educational approach, building authority. And so, I get to work with every new franchisee from a strategy standpoint. You are backed by project managers. You're backed by executive assistants that are supporting you through it. And then you're backed by the strategy side. Randall's very involved in that. So I think that gives a really nice overview, Randall. I can get into some more details. I'm sure there might be some questions, but this is the last thing I'll say. It's about relationships more than it is about transactions, this business. And
Yep.
Mike Lee, I think you said it perfectly, when you were discussing that somebody is coming and saying, that guy's great to work with. Our marketing needs to say that. It's not just, we can help you sell your business. That gets old quick. It's that we're the right person to help you sell your business. And so if we can find that in our marketing, that's where the magic happens. So I think, Randall, I think that's a good overview. If there's anything else you'd like me to elaborate on, I'm happy to.
I think that's a good overview, right? We also rely on some traditional forms of marketing, like sending out postcards and letters, right? Jeff Nyman, our co-founder, who we've mentioned a number of times, he's a big fan of sending out postcards and letters the good old-fashioned way. In fact, within the next day or so, we're launching a brand new direct mail platform where our owners can go in there, choose some templates, modify the templates, upload a list, pay the money, send it out, and we get these back. We get them back sometimes a year later. Recently, we got a postcard back from New Hampshire. Our owner in New Hampshire, he had it out there for 2.5 years. He had sent a postcard out. 2.5 years later, someone called him, hey, I've got that postcard. I'm assuming with a magnet on the refrigerator somewhere, and called back and got a listing. Linda Nyman told me recently that 8 years was the record for one of these marketing pieces to come back. So we do a combination of the new, of course, and a great deal of that digital marketing, social media marketing. And we also do the old school stuff that still returns a really good ROI. So I just wanted to make that point. No, thank you, Grant.
Absolutely. I also just want to mention the data aggregation that First Choice does and invests in. And we won't get into the exact partner details there, but there is some data that you have access to that will bring leads day one. And there is some of the campaigns that we perform in the Kickstart program when you're joining, with all the support you're getting across the board. There are leads right away. And that's what we want. Our goal as a marketing partner is to get you up and running with listings as fast as possible in a business that you need to build authority in. So anyway, I think, thanks, Randall. I appreciate
that, Grant, as always. I am going to share my final screen here, and that is to reintroduce you to Melissa. Almost everyone here has been working with Melissa, and I want to make the point that the next steps here are to connect with Melissa again. You can connect with her directly by going to franchise.fcbb.com. We will put her meeting link in the chat, and we can get that out to you in other ways, be it email or otherwise. So to that end, I think that's all for today. And I want to thank one more time all of the owners who've taken their valuable time to help support us here. And we'll call that a wrap. Appreciate very much everyone's time. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Bye now. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.